I'm delighted to join the conversation this morning at Wired Health. This past year has certainly brought into sharp focus the fragility of life and the complexity of human health. The COVID-19 pandemic has tested us all. It's exposed fundamental flaws in our health systems, supply chains, disease surveillance, and it's laid bare stark inequalities in society. As we continue to face the most significant health challenge of our time, it would be dangerous to consider this pandemic a black swan event. We must prepare for the next global health emergency now and use this opportunity to develop advanced technologies to prevent disease, discover new treatments, and protect human health at scale. In the lobby of BenevolentAI, the company I lead here in London, we have a neon sign that reads, "Because it matters." It's a glowing reminder that the work we do is not just a job, it is a higher purpose. And this rings ever more true. And although we got many things wrong in our response to this pandemic, I want to focus today on some of the things we learned and what we can do better. Because what ultimately matters in this time of crisis is that we come together as technologists, medical practitioners, and scientists to leverage advances in AI and machine learning to improve health outcomes for all. Last year, as the cases of COVID-19 soared around the world, countries locked their borders and divisions between nations sharpened. However, whilst the world was erecting barriers, the scientific community was dismantling them. In January 2020, when scientists first published the genetic sequence of the novel coronavirus and made it available for any scientist with an internet connection, the race was on to find new therapeutics and develop vaccines. By March 2020, in a feat of incredible scientific prowess, over 200 vaccines were in development, and soon after, over 50 were in clinical trials. While some of these vaccines use traditional inoculation methodologies, many have harnessed newer ways, such as synthetic messenger RNA, with Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech mRNA vaccines delivering 95% efficacy, which is a resounding result in this time of crisis. Moreover, mRNA technology has transformed forever vaccine development and manufacturing processes and ensured our response to new variants and viruses would be substantially faster in the future without compromising safety or efficacy. And I'm sure that we're all looking forward to hearing from the BioNTech co-founder and CEO, who will be speaking later this morning. Today, the most extensive vaccination campaign in history is underway, though it's never fast enough, given the infection rates and the variants. Over 500 million doses have been administered across 133 countries, with the latest pace approaching 10 million doses per day. This scientific triumph represents years of advanced research and what can be achieved when we join forces to fuse human ingenuity with new technology. And it speaks to the very heart of what we do at BenevolentAI. The pandemic has raised important questions about open access to data. Data is the lifeblood of AI-powered research. Algorithms are only as good as the data we use to train them. Machine learning models can interrogate vast quantities of biomedical information, and yet the quality of that data directly impacts the value of the hypotheses generated. As COVID-19 is ultimately a novel problem, collecting and applying quality data has been a real challenge. And yet the scientific results achieved in less than a year are phenomenal. And initiatives that operationalize open science and give access to data, algorithms, workflows, and models have demonstrated the highest quality results. But to defeat this virus and future pathogens, we need to open communication channels between scientists in every country. Yet some countries have been less than transparent and forthcoming with their data for fear of consequences. In the UK, we have world-leading genetic sequencing capabilities. For instance, at last count, we are sequencing 10 times as many viruses as they are in the United States. Because of this capability, we were able to rapidly sound the alarm over the emergence of a new COVID variant that was more transmissible and later proven more deadly. The announcement of this discovery was intended to warn the world, and as a result, countries shut their borders to us. Now, this is understandable when the world is struggling to control the spread, but in general, governments should be praised, not stigmatized for their transparency. We must encourage open research and data sharing to track this pandemic's progression and to prevent future ones. The power of global collaboration on health has been demonstrated consistently since the establishment of the World Health Organization in 1948. But this is the first pandemic response to be defined by data sharing and the rapid publication of research. In less than 12 months, more than 200,000 scientific papers about COVID-19 were published. Most were peer-reviewed and shared, representing 4% of the world's research output for the time frame. But herein lies the challenge. It is simply impossible for scientists to synthesize this vast universe of information and make sense of it all. Traditional ways of harvesting data are time-consuming and error-prone and expensive. The sheer volume of data generated has become a barrier to advances in disease diagnosis and treatment. This has to change. The BenevolentAI platform gives scientists a new lens to view and reason across all the world's available research publications, to solve complex biomedical puzzles and unlock the value in massive data sets. For instance, when the COVID-19 crisis hit, we rapidly pivoted our research towards understanding the body's response to this deadly virus. In January 2020, with thousands of patients already critically ill, our specialist team mobilized to identify existing drugs already proven safe that could treat the virus until vaccines were developed and available. Our scientists focused on identifying the mechanism by which the virus enters cells. Then we queried our platform for drugs that had properties that could inhibit viral entry and block viral replication, alongside of an anti-inflammatory response to help ameliorate the cytokine storm, which has proven to be so deadly. In a matter of hours, we identified baricitinib, a once-daily or approved oral rheumatoid arthritis drug, as a potential treatment from the thousands of possible drugs. It was logical to examine the potential of anti-inflammatory drugs for COVID-19. However, we uncovered previously unknown antiviral properties of this compound, meaning it could inhibit both the process by which the virus infects cells, as well as effectively reduce the body's extreme immune response. This anti-inflammatory effect was logical, but the antiviral activity was a surprise, even to the owner of the drug, Eli Lilly. Reasoning across these vast quantities of curated biomedical data and deploying our natural language processing and relationship extraction algorithms, our scientists predicted these antiviral effects. And it's safe to say that no one scientist would have seen this signal in the data without the support of AI and machine learning. We published our hypothesis in The Lancet on February 4th in 2020. Then investigators all over the world started using baricitinib in observational studies. We all know the limitation of small studies, but by April, NIAID in the US and Eli Lilly began a large-scale randomized clinical trial. Independent scientists at Lilly, Imperial College, and the Karolinska Institute in Sweden validated our computer-generated hypothesis in the laboratory. Drug discovery scientists usually talk about bench to bedside, referring to quickly moving from laboratory research to treating patients. But in this case, we went from computer to bench to bedside in record time. In November, a study published in Science Advances showed that baricitinib contributed to a 71% reduction in mortality in elderly patients with a median age of 81 years and with moderate to severe COVID-19 pneumonia. Based on these results and the results of the NIAID trial, baricitinib was granted FDA emergency use authorization and is now being administered to patients in the US alongside remdesivir. In sick patients, it reduced admission times from 18 to 10 days versus remdesivir alone. This was the first AI hypothesis to be validated in a large international randomized trial and ultimately resulted in the drug receiving emergency use authorization. And this demonstrates what can be achieved when AI and human intelligence combine forces. One of the most interesting things is that similar drugs in the same class have failed in clinical trials, highlighting the unique differences between molecules. Indeed, it's the molecules that are important here. With no aim or desire other than to replicate, a virus reminds us that life has an entirely molecular basis, just like the targets and drugs we discover. At Benevolent, we don't believe that machines, however intelligent, will ever be able to replicate the ingenuity of human beings. But we believe that advances in AI and machine learning can be powerful allies in the global fight against disease, providing scientists with superpowers to understand complex biology and develop better treatments in record time. This is important because drug discovery continues to be one of healthcare's most complex challenges, and it is ripe for change. Traditional methods take 10 to 15 years and cost an average of $2.5 billion. After all that investment and time, the truth is that the top 10 selling drugs on the market today only work for 30 to 50% of the patients who receive them. And today, over 300 million people are suffering from rare diseases with inadequate treatment options, and the economics of drug discovery and development means there's no treatment on the horizon for them anytime soon. Everyone here today will know someone whose life has been turned upside down by a devastating diagnosis, and there's nothing worse than feeling powerless to do anything about it. There's been a tide of innovation in drug development across areas such as precision oncology and the development of treatments for monogenetic diseases, for which mechanisms of action are well understood. However, for complex multifactorial diseases, where the mechanisms are poorly understood, such as central nervous system disorders, autoimmune conditions, and everyday diseases such as diabetes, the standard of care is failing patients, and a new approach is required. This is the challenge we focus on at BenevolentAI. Whilst a growing number of companies are developing advanced technologies that understand deep sets of data across specific disease area, at BenevolentAI, we believe that solving this problem requires a more ambitious and comprehensive approach. We are continuously curating a vast biomedical knowledge graph and developing AI-enabled tools that give scientists a multifactorial understanding of gene targets and dysregulated mechanisms and pathways, uncovering previously hidden insights and relationships that evade scientific discovery due to the sheer volume of biomedical information available and the inherent complexity of the terrain. We then use those insights to validate hypotheses and ultimately develop novel compounds to treat diseases such as glioblastoma, ALS, and ulcerative colitis, which have often defied conventional research efforts. Last month, we announced our first in-human clinical trial of a drug to treat atopic dermatitis. It's our first drug to reach the clinic. We believe that this drug will dramatically improve the lives of children and adults for whom conventional steroids are not an option or that have rendered them refractory to treatment. So we find ourselves at a critical crossroads. We have the potential to do good at scale, unlike ever before, and bring about the changes we so desperately need in drug discovery and development and healthcare. But if we are to advance drug discovery to benefit patients in need, old models of competition and secrecy will not cut it. Human health cannot be a zero-sum game. To bridge the gap, partnerships between AI companies and pharma are essential. At BenevolentAI, we are forging strong collaborations with leading pharma companies like AstraZeneca. This culture has allowed us to combine our AI technology with their rich data sets and expertise and make massive progress in diseases such as chronic kidney disease and idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. Just last month, we achieved a significant milestone when AstraZeneca accepted the first target that came out of our collaboration into their portfolio. This reflects what pharma and technology companies can achieve when they work together, because the most significant technological breakthroughs of our time will not happen in a vacuum. Multilateral cooperation is key to ensuring emerging technologies are used for the benefit of all. And the AI that we are building is magnanimous. This is the core of my work as the co-chair of the Global Partnership for AI. The Global Partnership for AI is an international initiative supported by more than 40 countries to advance AI responsibly and ethically and support cutting-edge research. By bringing together world-leading experts from science, industry, civil society, governments, and academia, the Global Partnership on AI is working to establish a collaborative governance framework to ensure AI is a force for good. This matters because we have the opportunity to build these rules and principles now as technology develops and to shape the future of medicine, among other pressing societal changes and challenges. Though we've been living through one of the most challenging times in history, our ambition is great and our purpose is clear. We must prepare for the next global health emergency now, and we must use this opportunity to develop AI and other technologies to prevent disease, advance new treatments, and protect human health at scale. We must do this for the benefit of all and ultimately because it matters. Thank you.